Phoena's Quest, Book 1, First Spark, by Chrissy Garwood. Chapter 18. The Coach Arrives. Oramus and Carillion stepped back while Hampton lifted Phoena from the carriage. She saw the pair talking with Lord Westonbrook as the coachman carried her away. Matron waited at the top of the stairs. Without comment, she entered the hallway. Hampton followed a few paces behind. They passed along the flagstone hallway to the second guest suite. An unfamiliar footman stood at the open double doors. Cecily nodded, and he took Phoena from Hampton's arms. "Thank you, Hampton," the older woman said. "Please accept this token for the service you provided this day." Hampton received the leather pouch with a wide smile. He bowed before retreating the way he came. The coins clinked in his hands as he walked. Phoena's eyes followed the coachman, and the footman did not move. Oramus stood in the doorway, waiting until Hampton had left before he approached. The blonde nobleman jerked his head towards the door. "Are you sure you can trust Hampton?" "What silver can't achieve, a forgetfulness spell will do," Cecily replied. "Why aren't you in the coach with the others?" "Lord Westonbrook decided to accompany Barapa. It will take some time to explain the situation to Nurse. There wasn't any room for me in the coach with his lordship taking up a whole seat. I said I would make my own way back." Cecily nodded to the footman, who stepped across the threshold into the guest suite. He carried Phoena through the reception room to the master bedroom. Oramus followed in close step with Cecily. "I see you've recruited a new footman. I should warn you that even non-magicals are at risk when her ladyship has a crisis." "I've already prepared for that possibility," Cecily said, blocking the doorway. This prevented Oramus from entering the bedchamber. "Go and attend to Viscount Barapa. Your presence is not needed here." The footman delivered Phoena to a reclining chair and stepped away. An unknown dark-skinned woman, dressed in silvery grey from head to toe, was waiting beside the couch. This woman was broad-shouldered and even taller than the intimidating matron. There was the same kind of authority in the way she held herself. She began to remove the cloak. Phoena flapped her arms without effect. She had no strength to defend herself from the unwelcome attention. The air around this woman had the aroma of flowers in the garden after a refreshing spring rain. A delicate swish accompanied the woman's movement. Now that the stranger was close, Phoena realised she was mistaken. The woman wasn't wearing a head covering. Her clothes were the same colour as her hair. The grey hair piled high upon her head, with elaborate ringlets that fell beside her ears. She wore grey pearl earrings. The fabric of her dress was much finer than Phoena had ever seen. The lace at the woman's neck and cuffs was exquisitely crafted. "Shh," the woman whispered, and then she smiled. Phoena's heart leapt. A warmed blanket replaced her cloak before the grey-haired woman turned away to the fire. Phoena refocused her attention to the door. "I'll not leave," Oramus said, "not until I have your assurance that you won't steal away her ladyship without a proper farewell. We both know that it's not safe for her to travel. Should that change, I'll let you know. Now leave before I have you removed." The footman seemed to grow in stature, and he stepped closer to the young nobleman. Phoena gasped. The woman in grey was beside her in an instant. She took hold of the girl's hand and squeezed it with her own. The woman's sorrowful eyes did not match her smile. "There, there, Sherma," the woman crooned with an unusual accent. "Time enough for that when you're rested." Oramus raised his voice as the door began to close in his face. "Please let her ladyship know that I go with great reluctance, and that I will await her next summons." "Go, you foolish boy," Cecily said. She gave him a small shove. The footman followed the young nobleman, closing the door behind him with a bang. With the door shut, all sound from outside the bedchamber ceased. There was a flicker of magical light around the door frame. Phoena's eyes flew to the heavy curtains that covered the window. Cecily came towards Phoena's couch. "That one is persistent. Do not worry about Oramus or the others. Focus now on regaining your strength." "Yes, matron." "Call me Cecily. Our time in this place nears an end. I will soon put off this disguise." Phoena opened her mouth to ask a question, but Cecily shushed her. "Your questions can wait. I'm going to leave you with Lady Analia. She is more gentle and patient than I. She knows what you need. Lie still. Let her bathe you and tend to your wounds. I'll return when you're settled in bed." Without another word, Cecily left through the door. Phoena stared after her. The woman in grey hummed a tune as she continued her preparations. Phoena noticed the cake of fragrant lavender soap and the pile of towels beside her couch. She could not raise her hand, so there was no choice but to submit to this stranger's ministrations. Phoena couldn't remember ever having anyone help her bathe. Her mind rebelled. Lady Analia carried a large basin filled with hot water and knelt beside her. When she began removing Phoena's ruined petticoat, the girl closed her eyes. Embarrassment gave way to tears. "Hush, hush, Sherma," the woman said. "You've been in the river. Black and blue you'll be on the morrow." As she talked, the soft washcloth moved over Phoena's body. "It's a blessing that there are but one or two wounds that need a poultice. There's no need to risk magic here. Don't you worry, Sherma. Old Analia knows the herbal remedies from the ancient days." Phoena had a dozen questions. "You don't look old." Lady Analia laughed. "I'm old enough to have seen 10 kings come and go. I was old before your grandmother was born, and I hope to live long enough to see your grandchildren brought into the world." "You knew my grandmother?" "Shh, Sherma. There will be time enough for answers when your body heals." "Why do you call me Sherma?" "That's the name your grandmother preferred when she was a girl. You remind me a little of her. She also had the river in her soul. On more than one occasion she needed rescuing from the water." After Lady Analia wrapped Phoena in warm towels, it was time to wash and comb the tangled hair. "I've seen many marvels in my time," Lady Analia said, "but I've never seen hair like yours. Now that it is wet, I can smell the damp earth of my homeland. It reminds me of how the soil rejoices after heavy rain. Phoena lay back against the padded chair, pondering how to respond. Lady Analia braided the brown-black hair. Next, she attended to the wounds from the river ordeal. The place where the fish-hook had torn her arm received the most attention. It was angry and red. "This one will leave a scar," Lady Analia said. "Another reminder of the transformation that you are going through." "I'm not finished changing," Phoena cried. "You have eyes like the river and hair like the earth. There's still fire and air to leave their mark. You will be stunning when the transformation is complete. After you reach your maturity, you will have more than one man eager to claim your heart." "She already has 3 suitors," Cecily said, announcing her return. Phoena hadn't heard the door open or close. "Her godfather is most determined to keep them from advancing their claims." "I sense this maid is more independent than her predecessors," Lady Analia laughed. "When she makes her choice, Westy will have a battle on his hands. He will find it impossible to stop the tide of love. It would be easier if her guardian turned his efforts to preventing the moon from rising. I will bow to your wisdom and experience, Analia." By the time her father started listening to his heart, it was already too late. All that political posturing and manoeuvring was a disaster in the making. You and I must work to ensure history doesn't repeat itself. "Help me get her onto the bed," Analia said. Phoena was tightly tucked beneath the covers of the 4-poster bed. The 2 women whispered together near the fire. Cecily held an earthenware beaker. Analia poured hot water into the mug and stirred the brew using a green-leafed twig. Analia raised Phoena's head from the pillow, while Cecily delivered the steaming brew to Phoena. "Herbs from the mountains," Analia said, "to make your body sleep." The steam wafted over Phoena's face, and her eyes began to water. The liquid burned her tongue, and the bitterness made her gag. Analia's grip was both strong and relentless. As with the other ministrations, Phoena was helpless to resist. The girl swallowed, and the rest of the herbal concoction was quickly consumed. She lay back on the pillows, staring up at the ruffled canopy. Her chest was tight, as if it was difficult to breathe. A strange heaviness pressed against her forehead. She shook her head in an attempt to be free of it. "Don't fight it," Analia said. "Close your eyes. I will sing you a song to help you find your peace." A lifetime of obedience robbed Phoena of any further resistance. She closed her eyes. The words were in a foreign tongue, but Analia's tune seemed familiar. "Hide me now," Phoena murmured the words of her childhood prayer as she drifted to sleep. The words of the song haunted her dreams. Dear listening reader, I hope you have enjoyed this latest chapter from the first book in the Phoena's Quest trilogy. This is a beta copy, and the text may change between now and the official publication date. If you have any questions or suggestions that would make this chapter easier to read, please let me know. In return for your help, I will include your name in the acknowledgements as part of the reader team. Chrissy.